What is going on, everybody out there? My name is Jakejames Lugo. Welcome to the channel and welcome to this brand new episode of JJ's One Man Podcast. We got a brand new year, a brand new format, same great, awesome attitude that you all know and love. We got a lot of stuff to talk about today. Hopefully, your guys' brand new year for 2024, the start of it has been going well. Let me know what's been going on with you in the comment section down below. Are you playing games? Are you planning to play new games? Because we got some brand new stuff coming out later this month. We're going to talk about a few things today. Some gaming stuff, a little bit of Star Wars, because you all know we love Star Wars out here, but a couple gaming related things to really get into. So to kick things off, all right, let me pull my little schedule here, or my little itinerary. Okay, let's talk about the Switch 2. Okay, so you guys are gonna hear me clacking here, but let's talk about the Switch 2, right? So the Switch 2, some people are talking about it a little bit more. A lot of discussion, a lot of rumors, a lot of quote-unquote leaks all over the place about the Switch 2. And the thing about it is that it's like there's been this weird thing where I've taken a stance where I don't believe anything when it comes to these leaks, when it comes to these insiders and other people when they've been discussing the Switch 2, because almost always it seems like people get a lot of stuff wrong, or at least, heavily skewed in a different direction compared to when Nintendo actually comes out and confirms like certain details about whatever they're working on. And in the case with this, there's been a lot of talk about the Switch 2 for quite some time, actually. I want to say like maybe the last couple of years, give or take. And there's been a lot of different things, including stuff as far as like what's going to be in the actual content of the actual guts of the console, the actual like processor, the chip, what its actual capabilities and its features are going to be. There's been a lot of different things thrown all over the place, but no real concrete details, save for a few spots. Now, the latest one that you guys are seeing here on Kotaku is that the Switch 2, whatever the next Nintendo Switch is going to be, some people are saying that it's going to cost anywhere from $400 or around that price range, and the games are finally going to be costing $70. Very similar to what we're seeing now with the PlayStation 5, with the Xbox Series X. It's just, again, a lot of this stuff feels like it's unconfirmed. It just feels like hearsay, prediction, speculation, no concrete details. The biggest concrete details, I will say, more than anything else that we've gotten up to this point, probably has to be some of the stuff that was reported by Jason Schreier a while back. I believe that it was on not the Washington Post. I believe whatever outlet he's on right now. I can't remember at the moment, but I remember he reported on a bunch of different stuff for his outlet, and it had to do with a lot of the different manufacturing stuff that was happening out in Europe and in Asia, where they're basically putting together the Nintendo Switch successor, whatever that console is going to be. And some of that stuff sounded interesting, but keep in mind, there was also a chip shortage at one point. There was a lot of other things going all over the place that were messing things up with the production, or at least, delaying certain stuff. There was a lot of factors playing into this thing, but what I do think is going to happen more than likely as we get closer to the release of this console, I feel like we're going to get more concrete details probably towards the summer of this year, probably more also, if not then, towards the later half of this year, towards like maybe the holidays, because I don't know if we're necessarily going to get the new console this year, but I definitely think we're actually going to see Nintendo finally talk about it openly. I mean, they've mentioned a few things about whatever the successor might be in some like different like, meetings or conference calls from Nintendo, especially out in Japan. But I'm talking about like real concrete details. I'm talking about with marketing and everything. Like maybe like a little tease or something during Summer Game Fest. Something along those lines, right? I feel like this is the year that we actually find out whatever this console is going to be, let alone hopefully a name. It would be nice if Nintendo actually, whenever they talk about whatever a new game or new product is, that they give us a name so we don't have to speculate on what the name is for when they finally talk about what it is and it's just like some random thing. Like tell us the name up front. That way, when we actually discuss this thing, we could actually all be on the same page. Remember for like the longest time we were calling Breath of the Wild 2 Breath of the Wild 2 literally, and it ended up being Tears of the Kingdom, or the Breath of the Wild successor. It was all over the place. Like, just tell us the name and just get it over with. We don't need to speculate too crazy with that. But anyway, that's that. Again, a lot of hearsay. There's a lot of different reports that you can find right now over on gamesindustry.biz. Obviously, Kotaku is the one I'm looking at. A lot of different people talking about the different guts of what would be in the next Nintendo Switch. We got Digital Foundry here is what they're sourcing, but still, check out all that stuff when you can. There's a lot of other things that are probably going to come up very, very soon with it. Now, the other thing we should discuss is this is actually some cool news, okay? We got some good news for once, right? Let's talk about this kid that beat Tetris, like literally beat Tetris. I'm talking about NES Tetris, the most old school, or at least getting close to the most old school of old school when it comes to classic video games, especially that version of Tetris, because Tetris had been out before the NES was a thing. It was actually out, I believe, on the PC, on a specific, like, build a PC. I don't know if it was the Apple II or something like that, early, mid 80s. Before the NES. But the point is, this young teenage kid, okay, what's his name specifically? I want to get his exact name so I can actually tell everybody. Okay, goes by the name of Blue Scotty is his actual alias. Okay, but they don't actually reveal his real name probably because he's a minor. But the point is, there's a video here that you guys could probably go see on Kotaku. Now you could go watch it for yourself. I'm not going to play it here, but he basically reached the end or the kill screen of Tetris, which is literally him reaching 999999 across the board, doing all these lines, these like quick like drops of the different pieces and making Tetris, or Tetraminos as they're called. But still, pretty cool. Very, very cool, awesome thing for someone to do because it's never been done before. Okay, a lot of people have played Tetris. There's been competitive Tetris all over the place. And this is like the first time we're really seeing, let alone a young kid, actually accomplish something that's incredibly difficult, like stupidly difficult. And you have to give props. You have to give him his flowers because this is something that a lot of people have tried to do probably over the years, haven't been successful. He's young. He's 13 years old, so he still's got his whole life ahead of him. And he's doing stuff like this as a competitive or like just a top tier gamer. So this is pretty cool. And it also shows too, which we should mention, that the classics are always going to have their charm amongst all generations. I mean, Tetris as a game is very simple. It's very straightforward. It's not complex. All you have to do is just match up the pieces to make lines and score points. So stuff like this is really cool to see. Like, you could have easily applied this type of thing over to a game like Pac-Man, to Donkey Kong, to, Joust. You could probably do the same thing also to, like, even maybe a little bit more of a complex game like, I don't know, like Super Mario Brothers or Super Mario Brothers in that regard. It's just cool to see that because, honestly, again, it shows you that Tetris is universal. Tetris is just awesome. Tetris is one of, in my personal opinion, one of the greatest games of all time. It's literally that freaking good overall. So, mad props to this kid. What's his name again? Blue Scotty or Scuddy. Blue Scuddy, competitive Tetris player or top tier Tetris player. Kudos to him for reaching the kill screen on the NES version of Tetris. That's awesome. Now, we do have to throw a little bit of shade, though. Not at him, but at this British TV host over at Sky News. Like, this is one of those things that's like, come on now. Like, what are we doing? Are we done or are we finished with nonsense like this? Because basically this TV host or this news anchor host, okay, comes out and basically just dunks on this kid's parade. Basically saying, like, now it's time for you to go outside, which is such like an old like insult or old like jab for people that play video games or that engage with fandom and stuff. That's been around for years, ever since like the 80s. It's been like an old thing that people say that when they don't understand video games, they use that as a means to kind of like invalidate a person that loves video games. And it's stupid. It's really dumb. It's like, I get it. This kid has been like, playing Tetris for God knows how long at this point, most of his life. I mean, he's 13 years old, so he's not been around for a long time, but he probably spent hours upon hours indoors playing this on the NES. And clearly it paid off because he did something that nobody else has done. And everybody's like rightfully dunking on this woman. But the point is like, why do you got to be like this? Like, can't you just wish the kid well? Can't you just wish the kid, like, success in life? If you got this type of dedication to Tetris, imagine what this kid can do when he starts working in the workforce in real life, in the real world. Like, what else is this kid going to do? Maybe this kid, besides this achievement playing Tetris, will go on to be like a software developer, a software engineer, or do something with technology that might be related to because of his love of Tetris. Like, you don't know. It's stuff like this that I feel like is just so unneeded, so unnecessary, so incredibly stupid. And again, it's a sign of certain people that just refuse to understand video games and refuse to understand a new media or any sort of thing that's like a trending thing that's been around for a long time. I mean, if you don't like games, that's fine. Nobody's hating on you for not liking games. Nobody's getting mad because you don't like Tetris. I don't think there's any person out here that like hates Tetris when you really think about it. But the point is like, this kid did something awesome. So no need to dunk on this kid. No need to like, take a jab or try to invalidate or be a jerk about what he did. Like, come on now. Be a better news host. You know what I'm saying? Go report on some news or go report on some bad news that you could actually dunk on, that you could actually legit dunk on. You know what I'm saying? Let me know your thoughts about this in the comment section down below. Tell me, do you think this news reporter was just being a jerk just being annoying for whatever reason? Or do you think like she was actually trying to make a valid point, which I don't think so. I think she was just being a jerk, just because. I mean, it's a 13-year-old kid, for God's sake. So that's all I'm saying. Like, have a little class. I mean, you're in journalism. Have a little class. You know what I'm saying? Just don't be like that, right? So now that we got all that out the way, now let's talk about some nonsense, okay? We got some nonsense to discuss. Let's talk a little bit about this woman right here. Now, before I get into it, I should say, I did talk about this a little bit on my TikTok. If you haven't been following me on TikTok as of yet, definitely go follow me on there. There's links on my actual page on the channel for YouTube, but I've shared it all over my social media. But I post a lot on TikTok every single day, gaming related, movie related, Star Wars related content every single day for everybody. And one of the things that I did talk about was this woman right here, Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy. This is her interview that she did with CNN a while back. Okay, actually, this is just the video section, but there's been a lot of different places that have reported on her and some of her comments that she made about Star Wars. She's going to be, I should say, and clarify this, she is going to be the first woman director of a Star Wars feature film, which is fine, which is cool. But the problem is that people are getting annoyed at her interview, not because of her accomplishments and what she's doing, but mostly because it feels like her comments are snubbing her nose at Star Wars fans and at basically the audience. Basically, she made comments without playing this video here. She made comments saying that it was about time that a woman was able to shape the Star Wars storyline, or to shape a story in a galaxy far, far away, to have control and basically take the lead on Star Wars as a franchise. Now, there's a couple things about this that I've talked about already on my TikTok video that you could go check out if you want to see exactly what I said there, but this might be a little bit of like, retreading the same territory for some people. But for anybody that didn't watch that, this comment, or these comments, to me anyway, almost reek a little bit of ignorance. And the reason being is because there's been women that have been influential, highly influential, in shaping Star Wars literally since the very beginning. If you don't know what I'm talking about, again, we're going to run through all these, right? Number one, Marcia Lucas, who used to be George Lucas's wife. It's his ex-wife now from years ago. But she's the reason why Star Wars A New Hope exists as it does. The very first Star Wars movie, she was an editor that actually went back into the lab and re-edited the first Star Wars film. And that's the film that we got in theaters and became a massive success overall. The original cut of A New Hope wasn't that great. Like, George Lucas is credited to being the creator of Star Wars, came up with the concepts, the characters, the storylines, and the plot points, and all this other stuff for the entire franchise. He's the father of Star Wars. We get it. But also, you don't get Star Wars as we know it without Marcia Lucas at all. It was so much of a big deal that Marcia Lucas won an Oscar for editing at the Academy Awards that year that Star Wars came out, or at least that following year, whenever that Oscar or Academy Awards ceremony happened. Her and a bunch of other people that worked on Star Wars won Academy Awards for this. So that in of itself, massive deal. And it's not even in the director's chair. That's the biggest thing about this, is that, Sharmeen's comments that she made in her actual interview, her comments are solely where she didn't clarify that she was probably talking about a director, specifically having a woman in the director's chair, which we get. But number one, that's on you to clarify that comment. And number two, where's the PR team for Lucasfilm? Like, real talk, when you really ask this, right, or really think about it, this is something that Christian Harloff actually brought up on The Big Thing, because I actually watch The Big Thing. I check out Christian's content all the time. And he's been constantly talking about this actually for a long time. Lucasfilm now, underneath Kathleen Kennedy, needs a PR team, or they at least need a better PR team, because a statement like this comes off the wrong way. Because most of us, including myself, we're all smart enough to understand what she's probably talking about. But it's the way that you say it and the way that you deliver it that really matters in the long run, especially when it comes to movies, Hollywood, and entertainment. People are just going to write off this movie now because of comments like this, even though that is stupid. I don't agree with it. I don't think it's right to do that. But there are people like that out there. Why? Because you're selling them a movie. As a studio, Lucasfilm, as a Hollywood studio, Disney, as a director, Sharmeen herself, who's going to be directing this film, which, by the way, for the record, let's also understand, the movie's not even done yet. They haven't even finished the script of the movie. And you're talking this brazy? That's like, trying to talk big and talk brazy when you're not even stepped on the court yet. Like, you're talking like you won the playoffs already and you haven't even stepped out on the court. Like, what's up with that? And the point is that Star Wars fans, and I think the greater like general audience of Hollywood and films and movies and stuff, they're starting to get really tired of this type of talk. It's not that they have a problem with a female director. They don't even have a problem with female characters when you really get at it. I'm not talking about the bigots. I'm not talking about the crazy people. I'm talking about just the normal person out there that just loves following this stuff. I think everybody's starting to get really tired of this type of stuff being shoved like right in their face, or having their somebody's nose that's working on this project snubbed at them for whatever reason, whatever statement they're trying to make. This is something that Christian brought up, and he was actually talking with his co-host, which is a woman. Now, they were actually discussing this. It's like, look, we're going to go see this movie. I'm going to go see this movie day one because it's Star Wars. I'm going to support Star Wars regardless. I did that for the entire sequel trilogy and all the other projects, you know, as much as I criticize those things. But I'm going to go see all these things. But along the way, before this movie comes out, I think a lot of people would agree is like, look, you don't have to just dunk on me. You don't have to insult me. You don't have to like talk down to me or try to like force my face into something that you're trying to say. Like, we get it, okay? Be proud of being the first female director of a Star Wars feature film, but at least focus more on delivering a great product than trying to feel like you're getting on a soapbox and trying to make a statement. That's at least what he was trying to get at. He has a much better breakdown of it. He did a whole 2 hour, or I think it was like a 2 hour, hour and a half discussion about some of this stuff with his co-hosts, where they actually really got deep down into it. It's like, look, there are crazy people out there. We don't care about the crazy people that are just going to hate just to hate. But really, you don't have to put everybody else under that same umbrella for reacting or having an opinion about the comments you made. This is why I say that Lucasfilm needs a PR team, because this should have been vetted. Like, I get it. You're going on CNN. It's a very political place. Obviously, it's a political outlet. It's just the way it is. But still, like, at the end of the day, when it comes to these films, the director, the actors, the actresses, the people behind the camera, working the camera, the makeup artists, no, Kathleen Kennedy herself, the head of the studio, all of those people are trying to sell a movie. Which, to go back to Sharmeen's statements about a woman finally shaping a story in a galaxy far, far away, let's not forget that not too long ago, Lucasfilm and Kathleen Kennedy were going to get Patty Jenkins to do the Rogue Squadron movie, and they dropped the ball with that. Everybody was excited about that, for Patty Jenkins to come direct this movie, myself included, because it's Rogue Squadron, because that sounds like it would be awesome. And you have a director in Patty Jenkins that literally talked about the first time that she got on that whole like presentation, that video, that promo they did for it with the X-Wing that she's going to board and stuff. She was talking about how her dad was an actual fighter pilot, which makes sense for someone that understands that culture or understands that element of life or that like actual discipline or was exposed to it, to bring that to something like Rogue Squadron. That's like awesome. That sounds amazing. Yet, unfortunately, they couldn't come to an agreement for whatever reason. They just couldn't actually match up to what they wanted to do. And Patty Jenkins dropped from the project. And that's a shame, because that would have been an amazing movie more than likely, especially with Patty Jenkins. A lot of people give her a lot of nonsense for some of her previous movies. I think she did a decent job, or a good job, with the first Wonder Woman movie. And she's done other movies that have been pretty good as well. However, you dropped that ball. Now we're not getting it. Now we got Sharmeen in here, who, by the way, compared to Patty Jenkins' resume, does not have the feature film or blockbuster film experience that Patty has. She's just a documentarian, or someone that directs a lot of documentary films. When you really think about that, and you have to question, it's like, hold up. You know, if I'm like the common fan, I'm looking at this, I'm like, wait a second. You haven't done any like feature films before. Why are you directing a film for the biggest IP like in the world? The biggest movie franchise, like, period. Like, why is that? It shouldn't be wrong to ask those types of questions. It shouldn't be bad to have that discussion. That doesn't make you anti-woman director. That doesn't make you anti-woman. That doesn't make you anti-Star Wars, you know, especially anti-Disney Star Wars or anti-Lucasfilm. That literally is a valid question I think a lot of people probably have right now. And then again, her statements going on, or that she's putting out there in places like CNN, I don't think really help. Now, there is one other thing we should mention too, within this whole discussion that's very important about this. And this actually happened more recently, where people are starting to like put a lot more spotlight on it. There was a couple interviews that Sharmeen did years ago in relation to like some of her documentary work and some of her activism and stuff, which is fine. But people were trying to pass that off as like current day statements, which is not true. Had nothing to do with Star Wars, had nothing to do with Lucasfilm. Like, that's work and her own opinions and stances and perspectives that have nothing to do with any of this stuff. So trying to actually put two and two together, I think, is stupid. I understand that people, based on certain statements, are going to look for parallels, are going to look for connections, but that's not how we do things out here. Like, that's not right. So we have to stick to the facts. And the facts is that people just don't like her statements on CNN. Everything else outside of that is just, again, completely irrelevant, at least as far as I'm concerned. It's just that, again, with the way that how volatile over the last, couple of years, ever since Disney took over Lucasfilm, the conversations about this stuff have been, especially on social media. You can understand, people just throwing stuff into the pot just to mix it. But when you look at the facts, really, the statements that Sharmeen made weren't the best. They were just poorly made, should have been vetted, should have been gone through a PR team a little bit better. And if anything, like I said in my previous discussions when I talked about Star Wars or talking about Star Wars, and Christian Harloff even said this in his own podcast too when you watch it, talk about how great your project's going to be. Talk about how great your movie's going to be, how excited you are to be directing a Star Wars film, how excited you are to work with Daisy Ridley or anybody else. Talk about that, before anything else. Sell the movie to people on that. And I feel like everything else could come afterwards. If you want to put your own stance or your own stamp on it, that's fine. But don't actually make it where it's you're trying to snub your nose at everybody or trying to force something in everybody's face, especially when the franchise has had a problem with that perception with the audience for already the last couple of feature films, the last couple being Rise of Skywalker and Last Jedi, and even Force Awakens to an extent. Because a lot of people actually liked Rogue One. A lot of people were cool with Rogue One. A lot of people didn't like Han Solo or the Solo movie specifically because of The Last Jedi. That was a reaction to that film. But the point is that you got to talk to the audience better. You're selling a movie. You got to talk to them better. You got to actually have conversations with the audience better. Because, again, you're talking like you won the playoffs when you haven't even hit the court yet. So go and make a dope movie. Go make a great movie. So that way when it comes out, you can say that you were the first female director of a Star Wars film that was massively successful. I feel like that'll be the better conversation for you and everybody else to have, but only after you make it great. You know what I'm saying? Just putting it out there. Let me know your thoughts about that down below in the comment section. Agree or disagree with me? Give your thoughts about Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy's comments about Star Wars, about what she's going to be bringing to Star Wars and all that. So the other thing I want to talk about that's actually also equally as important, and I've actually talked about this too on TikTok, and I want to, bring it up here so everybody could see it. Let's talk about this deepfake project, okay, from whoops, I'm going to actually mute it here just so you guys could see the full picture. There we go. Let's talk about this deepfake project that is coming from Star Wars Theory. Now, the reason why I want to talk about this, and I talked about this again on my TikTok. Go check it out when you can if you want to have that discussion, you want to see what I said there. But again, going to reiterate a lot of my stuff here with other opinions. So this is a fan project that's using AI and deepfake technology to create a Luke Skywalker for a short, 7 or 8 minute presentation, at least what Star Wars Theory says. It's going to be part of a series that's going to be using lines from Heir to the Empire, Star Wars Legends, and other stuff like that, which is cool. Which is fine. It's a fan project. He also makes it very clear multiple times in many places that this is completely non-for-profit. This is not making any money whatsoever. And the reason why that's relevant is because a lot of people, when you're looking at this stuff, are saying that the actual project itself is going to be making Star Wars Theory money, or it's actually going to be making him profit. And they're really pointing to stuff like YouTube AdSense, donations and other things like that, which really have nothing to do with the project itself specifically. Because if you're not having people pay for a fan project, that people could watch and stuff through Patreon or something, then it's not for profit. Especially if you say it's not for profit and you're not showing that you're having people pay to watch this thing. So that's the big key point of info here. But the problem is though, is we saw a lot of reactions to this, okay? There's a lot of reactions to people that were looking at this. If I go up, because I'm on his actual Twitter, look at this image here. Of people that are going around posting this stuff. And the only reason why they're sending this to Mark Hamill, okay, they were basically asking him if he had his permission to use his likeness and stuff. The reason why they're doing this, and what the greater point that I want to make, is that a lot of people are taking this discussion about AI and about deepfake technology and about stuff like this with fan projects and making it more, or at least having it more rooted in their disdain specifically for Star Wars Theory personally, for Nietzsche's as an individual. They're trying to actually do a commentary on the content of his character as opposed to the discussion about AI, about deepfake, about fan films based on big properties. The reason why that's significant is because there's all these people that are jumping in on this conversation, making videos on TikTok, making videos on YouTube, making social media posts, but they're not doing this because of the real issue. They're doing it because they just don't like Star Wars Theory. And that's a problem. That's a community problem because we're trying to take our own personal issues, individual personal issues, and trying to make it into a trending topic, or at least try to put it together with a trending topic or a trending discussion. And that's a major problem because if you're going to be part of a discussion with this type of stuff, or if you're going to really try to contribute, right, you got to actually focus on the topic at hand and actually put your personal nonsense and your personal bias and stuff in check and actually put that to the side. You know, it's a big problem when it becomes more about criticizing and like just breaking down an individual rather than actually getting to the root of an issue or root of a discussion. And I'm seeing a lot of that, and I'm not a fan of that. I've seen that for quite some time now over various different projects, not just with Star Wars Theory. He's the biggest one that gets it because he's the biggest Star Wars content creator, like period. He's got over 3-point-something million subscribers on his Star Wars Theory channel, which is wild, insane. But also, I saw other people like Soups catch heat for this just because he reviewed the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, that people were literally trying to just go after him as opposed to him talking about the show, which is a darn shame. It's like, why would you do that to someone? Not only does it make the community seem more toxic, like what everybody's trying to say, the same thing they're trying to accuse that guy of doing, but also it's just unnecessary. But getting back to this major issue at hand, the other thing about this, right, that I want to make also clear too, because I actually see it, they actually... where I'm trying to find it, see if I can find it. But there were people that were going after this guy and then went after, went after Mark Hamill, went at least back to him, asking about if, he was mad at Star Wars Theory, and he said no. After he was asked about if they asked, was it his permission to do this stuff? And he also said no. Okay? The point is like, look, here it is. This is the actual thing. Are you mad at Theory? There you go. So you guys could see it. The important thing is here is like you can't expect Mark Hamill to endorse a fan film that's not licensed by Lucasfilm, let alone officially made by Lucasfilm as a Star Wars project. That's never going to happen. It has nothing to do with his opinion about it. I think if I'm a guessing man, if I'm a betting man out here, right, I think that Mark Hamill appreciates a lot of the fan projects, the artwork, the different like things that fans do using his likeness as Luke Skywalker, especially after The Last Jedi. I think he's very appreciative of that. I think he's always been like that because you're never hearing about Luke Skywalker or Mark Hamill, really, I could say Luke Skywalker, but Mark Hamill going after people that make fan projects involving Luke Skywalker. You never hear about that. You never hear him suing people. I don't even think that you really hear people from Lucasfilm going after other people doing fan projects or fan films, which is fine, but to turn this more into a bigger thing, than what it actually is, all because of some people that just don't like this guy, I think is stupid. And I think that it really hurts the conversation about AI and deepfake being a tool for people, because all tools, including these, everything from AI and deepfake technology to a hammer, to a ballpoint pen, to a screwdriver, to a toaster, whatever you could think of as a tool or some sort of creation that people use for whatever purpose. All that stuff could be used maliciously in some form or fashion. And there's a way to go about it where you could actually talk about the ethical use, the discussion specifically, the ethical use of any sort of tool, including AI and deepfake. Where was this same energy? This is the question that I ask everybody. Where was the same energy that everybody is having now with this? Where was that for when Shamook was doing that with various projects where he put Harrison Ford on Alden Ehrenreich's body, for the Solo film? He was using it to make the real quote-unquote Han Solo. He obviously didn't get Harrison Ford's permission to do that, but everybody was like, yo, this is dope. This is awesome. This is amazing. This is cool. And guess what? That helped him get a job with Lucasfilm to go make some of the stuff that he was doing with the Book of Boba Fett Season 2 and possibly Season 3. I would not be surprised if that's the case. But he was doing that stuff with deepfake technology and AI stuff. Where was all this energy now back then? You know what I'm saying? It's just as weird. Now, you can argue that, no, that's already, based on a project that was already done. It's not something original that, Mark Hamill had nothing to do with. It's I'd say that it's still deepfake using of that tool. It's still being applied to making a fan project or a fan creation off of an actual franchise, which is Star Wars, which is what Lucasfilms puts out and creates and has the license for. It's just stupid to have this type of attitude for one thing and be the complete opposite for another when it's literally part of the same discussion here. And you could say the same thing about where's that same energy for Rogue One with Moff Tarkin, with Carrie Fisher's Princess Leia. The list goes on. Okay. The point is, though, I feel like there's a lot of people that are just not being honest and not being, coming into this discussion in good faith. And it's all because they either have a personal problem with Star Wars theory, which is stupid, or they're trying to jump on a trend of hating on this guy for no reason. And I think it's stupid. It's a fan film, for God's sakes, an 8-minute fan short, really. You want to talk about like making profit on a fan film and stuff, which he always makes it a point to say that he can't do that even with his Vader fan films. There are other fan films out there that have actually done Kickstarters, that have done Patreons, that have done like donation stuff, that have made profit on their fan film. And it's like, you could actually go find some of them and point them out. Okay. The point is like, look, this whole controversy that people have made a thing out of is stupid. And trying to use other like little things to justify their stance on it, I think is also stupid. It's a fan film or fan project. It's not for profit. It's not bothering anybody. He's spending his own money to make it. It's not like he's making money on this. He's paying artists, by the way, that are using this stuff. A lot of people don't talk about that. A couple of his last couple projects that he's put out there, he's actually paid artists and paid editors of his videos, like actually paid them, which is a lot more that could be said for some other people out here that either don't pay them or don't even have editors to pay, but talk a big game. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's so dumb. It's so ridiculous. Again, it's a personal problem, not an actual real discussion amongst this stuff. But let me know your thoughts in the comments about everything. Do you agree or disagree? What do you think about that whole actual short? Like, what do you think about that series that he's doing? Do you like seeing fan projects like this? Do you think that you wish Lucasfilm would actually do something like this? I think it would be kind of cool if they actually did more Legends stuff, like a What If series. Call it Star Wars Infinities or Star Wars Legends. That would actually be kind of cool. But regardless, though, that was that discussion, okay? So a couple other things we got to dive into. A little bit more Star Wars that we get to talk about, which some actual fun Star Wars stuff, like actual good things, right? Let's talk about this release window for Star Wars Outlaws, because Star Wars Outlaws is confirmed coming in 2024 by the official Disney Parks blog. There we go. Yeah, Disney Parks blog. Okay, officially put out by Disney. Now, two things about this. Number one, they didn't specify exactly when it's coming out, the exact date or anything like that. Neither did Ubisoft, okay? The other thing, too, is that this original blog post was reported to have the actual description say late 2024, and they corrected it, okay? Because IGN, I remember they had an article about it, and I saw a couple other outlets as well reported on it, where they did say it's coming out late 2024, but Ubisoft reached out to a bunch of different outlets, or at least they also reached out to Ubisoft for comments, for clarification, and Ubisoft is like, no, that's not the case. We haven't said exactly when. It's still 2024, but it's not late 2024. So they had to change the blog right here for everybody to actually get the right timing and stuff, which is fine. I'm totally fine with that. But here's the point, though. This game is coming out this year. And more than likely, if I'm also a betting man with this too, late 2024 makes sense for this. The reason why this makes sense is because when you got as big of an IP, okay, and as highly anticipated of a release as Star Wars Outlaws or a Star Wars game in general, don't you want this game to come out right before the holiday season? Seriously, think about that. Every big major game release, especially stuff on this level, would come out during the holiday season if it could. Like, obviously, there's other big games that come out during the spring, during the summer, wherever else. But for Star Wars, especially for Star Wars films, Star Wars other big, like, massive projects, including other games, have come out during the holiday season or right before the holiday season. So we're talking like the fourth quarter of the year. So September to December, maybe even January, more than likely. But I would still say like before the year is over, for that Christmas holiday season, I feel like this would make a lot of sense for Star Wars Outlaws to come out around then, because people are going to want this game. It's going to be highly anticipated. People are going to ask for it under their Christmas trees and all that jazz. And I think that Star Wars Outlaws is going to be pretty good. I think it's going to be interesting. I'm excited about it. A lot of people have been indifferent about it, based on some of the footage we've seen. I think we're probably also more than likely, probably towards the spring, we might get another look at this game, if not at Summer Game Fest in the summer. More than likely. Okay, I think we're going to see this game again at least one more time before we actually get a definitive release window or a release date. Because I think that if this game is coming out in 2024 and it's not coming out in the spring, okay, it's more than likely coming out in the fourth quarter of the year. Because if it was coming out in the spring, we would have heard about it by now. They would have actually said, yeah, it's coming out early 2024. And that's not the case. And I don't even think it's the summer either. Because we get to the spring, we get to March, April, right? And they don't give us a release window, you best believe this game is coming out late 2024. Hands down. Easily. easily is coming out late 2024. I'm excited. Regardless of when this game comes out, I'm there day one. I'm ready. I'm there in the car, strapped, and going to go pick up this game without question. Okay? Or if Ubisoft, if you guys want to send me the game to actually preview it, that would be cool too. I'm just saying. Either way, though, I can't wait to play Star Wars Outlaws. Let me know if you guys are ready to play Star Wars Outlaws in the comments down below. Are you excited about this game? Are you looking forward to it? Did you like the trailer, the gameplay reveal, and the gameplay breakdown that the Ubisoft devs at Massive actually had about this game, which is pretty cool. Okay, so one more thing to discuss before we wrap things up. Let's talk a little bit about releases coming out at the end of this month, which the big one I want to talk about is Tekken 8. Okay, Tekken 8 is coming very soon. Hopefully you're ready. If you haven't already seen my video about the Tekken 8 demo, definitely go check it out because it's out right now. I'm actually going to pull it up on my channel now. Let's see if I can actually pull this up so I can show you guys real quickly the actual video. Whoops. There we go. So for you guys to see, here's my channel. Okay. There's my Tekken 8 video. Okay, PS5 impressions of the Tekken 8 demo. Got to play a bunch of different matches against the computer. Did a little bit of the story mode or like that world like arcade mode that they have, which I think is pretty cool. Definitely go check it out when you can, as well as also all the other videos that I have on the channel right now, including the previous episode that what we did of this show. But still, ready for Tekken 8. Tekken 8 comes out January 26th on PlayStation 5, and I think also on Xbox Series X and PC. But I'm getting it on PlayStation 5 regardless, because to me, Tekken is a franchise you play on PlayStation. Like I started on PlayStation with Tekken, I'm continuing with PlayStation with Tekken on PlayStation. It's getting all tongue twisted and stuff. The point is, Tekken 8 looks good. It looks fun to play. I played the demo. I enjoyed it. I can't wait to dive into the story mode, which I think is going to be wild and crazy. It's probably going to make no sense logic-wise, but it's going to be absolutely ridiculous in how insane that things could get with some of the different characters. And also, again, the visuals look fantastic. The visuals for Tekken 8, all Tekken games have always looked good, but Tekken 8 looks like really superb. And the other thing, too, I will admit, I am curious to see like what the new mechanics that they have with like the new like super moves and some of the other like, different mechanics that they're adding into Tekken 8, which powers up characters. I'm curious how that's going to actually really, really influence a lot of the competitive scene, because you know how crazy these Tekken players can be. They do crazy juggles. They find like tech that people don't really know about. They utilize it and they do some outlandish stuff in competitive tournaments. So it's going to be fun to see how all that plays out. But I'm more for Tekken about the single player content. I'm there to play it online with other people, to enjoy like getting into sets with people. I'm also curious to see what other goodies we have with this game, because if you remember at Tekken 7, we had all those cutscenes and all those like catching ups, like, previously on videos from the entire Tekken saga. And from what I saw in the demo, they're doing something similar. So I'm curious to see if we get even more stuff like that. A lot of good, fun, like fan service and fun, awesome nods for those that have been playing Tekken for a very long time. I think that's going to be really cool. But anyway, like I said, Tekken 8 comes out January 26th. I'm getting it on PlayStation 5. Are you going to be picking up Tekken 8? Tell me about it in the comments. Leave a like on the video if you're going to be playing Tekken 8. Like, if you're hyped for Tekken 8, I want to see some likes on this podcast. I'm just saying, like, it's going to be incredibly hype. It's going to be ridiculous that day. If I get it on midnight, I'm, like, dogging everybody online. I'm immediately jumping online and just dogging people. Going to be playing Kazuya. Going to be playing Martial Law. Maybe some Heihachi if he's in the game. It's going to be really, really, really cool. So, anyway, that's all I got for you guys on this episode of the podcast. A little shorter than the previous one. We had a lot of topics to discuss, but it was still shorter regardless. But anyway, yeah. Tell me if you guys have been enjoying the podcast's new format so far. Again, with the videos, it takes it a little bit longer for me to actually put everything together, but I get to do a bunch of other different things with the podcast for all of you to show you different stuff I'm talking about, give you guys timestamps, put it out in a much more different format, in a different way, something a little bit more refreshing for the new year. But I want to know the response. I want to know if you guys are enjoying it either way. So, yeah. That being said, that's all I got for you on this podcast. Leave me a like on this video. Subscribe to the channel. Go follow me on Twitter as well. And people are hitting up on my freaking Apple Watch. Go follow me on Twitter. Go follow me on TikTok. Go follow me on Instagram. Go check out my threads as well. I'm also posting stuff on threads. But go check out all that stuff. And I can't even forget too. I'm writing articles over on the nerdstash.com. I've been writing a bunch of different stuff related to games, and they're still texting me. What is it? I've been writing stuff about games on the Nerdstash. I wrote stuff about Star Wars games. I wrote stuff about Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown, and there's many other news articles and stuff that you guys can find on there from me. So go check it out. I've been sharing them on my social media. There's a lot of things to discuss. But anyway, I will talk to all of you again very soon. Peace out, and stay epic, everybody. This channel is sponsored by Flynn's Arcade and More, located in Margate, Florida. Flynn's is one of the premier spots for gaming fans in South Florida. They have a variety of arcade games on cabinet for you to play throughout the week, including all of your beloved classics. You could also play a ton of new and current console games too, on PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo consoles. Grab a snack or drink and enjoy the best gaming experience you'll find. Visit during one of their many big events to connect with the gaming community in South Florida. Want to test your skills in competitive fighting games? Join any of the weekly tournaments that happen at Flynn's for a chance for some cool prizes. And if you're into tabletop gaming or model kit building, there's a bunch of events there for you too. Swing by Flynn's Arcade and More, located in Margate Boulevard in Margate, Florida. You won't find a better spot than Flynn's.